Communication is said to be about 90% of leadership in the age that we live in now, especially because this is the information age where in order to get the mind share of people, you have to come at them from several angles and in the very exact way as well. Whether we're talking about the public sector or the private sector, communication is a central part to play a part in the successes of leaders in that sector across the board. Joining us to speak about the concept of communication today and its relevance to today's economy is Mr. Ikem Okuhu, a communications and PR expert. Welcome, Mr. Ikem.
My pleasure.
So you heard some of my little introduction.
Yeah.
Perhaps I may be wrong, but how central is communication to today's leadership in the public and private sector?
Well, in terms of recognition, it's not where it should be. In terms
especially in Nigeria.
Nigeria, in terms of relevance, its impact are still taken for granted. But the challenge we have is that across even the public and private sector, the weaknesses in terms of professionalization has occasioned situations where everybody thinks he is an expert in communication. Everybody thinks he is a professional, that he could do it. But then, if you drill into the job itself,
yes,
you find out that not everybody can get it done.
It's a profession.
It's a profession, and not just a profession that you learn in school. It is, for some people, it comes naturally. I'll give you an instance. Those days when we were in banks, when CEOs of banks want to hire communication people, the easiest thing, the quickest thing for them is to go to the media house.
Yes.
To find an editor, a writer.
Equally politicians, when they get to office, they want to
they go to the newsroom. But it is not so. People who may not really have those skills for writing could actually make strong, impactful communications people, because it is, you can learn it, but it is more about somebody who is as personable as he could soften certain grounds. I may be able to write professionally as a journalist, but I've seen, for example, press releases and press statements that should ordinarily have been designed to solve problems, which eventually became combative. Because being not very sensitive to the real situation, being incapable, either by nature or by exposure, of analyzing situations and being able to situate yourself in the context of the message consumers.
Yes, okay.
You understand? Empathy is very important. You need to leave yourself to become the audience. If I was the person for whom this message is being delivered to, how do I respond to it? How do I treat it? Am I going to connect with the person? Am I just going to see it is just there? Or am I going to even be put off?
Put off, yeah.
You also need to understand the audience. Everything we put out has receivers. What is their psychological situation at the point of receiving that message? I may receive a message well in Abuja, and in Enugu or in Lagos, it will hit me differently.
Very true.
So you also need to understand the environment of those who are consuming your messages. Whether, at which circumstance are they when you are sending that message? Not this kind of one size puts all. Yes, the grammar is correct, the tenses are correct, the register in terms of industry language, you got it spot on. But the person taking that message, where is he?
So we're basically we're talking about nuance now, that at every point in time, your message and the way you put it across must be nuanced. There's also our native intelligence that says that, it doesn't matter whether you say good morning or not, it's how you say the good morning. Because there's a way you tell someone good morning, they say in a fight.
Yes, even when you say the good morning.
Yes, how do you put it across?
It's important. But good morning, if you're reading on paper, yes, it's good morning. But are you saying the good morning when the person just left a quarrel with his neighbor or his wife? Are you saying the good morning when the person was thinking of work-related things rather than courtesies? Are you saying the good morning when the person is receptive to courtesies and some of those things? You need to be sensitive, and it doesn't take the kind of research that people think. Just close your eyes. If I was in this situation,
empathy.
How am I going to react? What meaning am I going to make of this message? Simple, like I told people when I encounter it, communication is common sense, but then common sense is usually not common.
Not common.
You need to acquire skills beyond the literary.
So we say in essence that, these communication skills, especially at the corporate and governance level, okay, if we could get it right at that point, it could solve a lot of problems for us beyond, what we have now.
Exactly.
It's about problem solving.
Yes, it's about problem solving. Okay. It's about perception management. It's about selling an agenda in the way people want and are disposed to consume them. Look at, let's even start from the public sector. How many departments, ministries, and even agencies of government, even if we are coming from the presidency, do we have the Ministry of Communication contributing to conversations beyond helping to escalate what the CEOs have said? How often do we call for their input in terms of the ways and hows of delivering of broadcasting of messages? It's usually, PR person, come and stand here and observe. It's usually PR. I want this thing in 20 national newspapers. I want this thing at the network news by 10 p.m. by so and so. Please, I want Daily Trust must carry this message. What is Daily Trust carrying? How did you embed certain ingredients that will make sure that when Daily Trust carrying it, they are carrying the DNA of the audience. They are carrying the psychographic dispositions of the people who are receiving this message to the point where they are. If they are the people who are receiving it are in a certain place, it is meeting them in the right frame, in the right context, with the necessary cultural infusions.
Exactly.
That will make sure that these guys will welcome this message and take ownership, which is the design. But then we just say, okay, was it on air? Yes, it was on Daily Trust, it was on this and that TV channels. How did you make sure that at the other end, you are engaging, you are connecting, you are bringing these people into the context of what you want to sell? If you don't get it, I would have heard that message. Whether I listen to the end, the TV station will be on until the end of the program. The newspaper will print it and it will be indelible. But if I am reading it, how am I relating to that message? Am I escalating it? These days, you have what you call POSE, paid, owned, shared, and earned media. The earned media is the extension, the immediate deliveries of your message gathers. To what extent did you inculcate in the people the belief, the ownership that will make them escalate your message to other people and take ownership to the point whereby they will now become your unpaid ambassadors, your trumpeters who are blowing your message across the spaces because you got the delivery right in terms of timing, in terms of content, in terms of context, in terms of place. These are the things we also need to always factor now, to look for people who understand these things. Yes.
Yeah. So from what you said now, I mean, it's clear that communication is very essential to the success of governance and even the corporate sector. Very, very essential. But how many of governance, especially public sector space, and even some, how many of them have like communication strategies, proper one that they can rely? For example, from what you said now, it may be difficult for only one person to think of all the angles.
No.
So maybe you need to have a kind of conference to say, where is this message going? What are the cultural issues? All of that. But do people bother? And for example, especially the government, federal, state, local government is almost non-existent in Nigeria. This could really help if we could push it so that they understand that beyond the beauty of their policies, whatever those policies are, the communication, the policy will succeed or fail at the level of the communication of it. You see, especially in getting the people to even support the policy and become ambassadors of those policies.
Yeah. I've been involved a lot of times in helping push things, both at the level of government and private sector, and they usually don't bother with all the. I'll give you an instance. There's an agency of government we currently work with in the power sector, and we were asked to issue a press release over certain timelines and deliverables of that agency. And they created a draft and sent it to me to properly drill it down. I picked the press release, dimensioned it. What I was sending to one newspaper wasn't what I was sending to the other. But then, what I did, which nearly caused a problem, was that they were measuring the power production in gigawatts. And they were writing GW.
Exactly, which people are not used to.
And I told her, I reasoned, I didn't even tell anybody. I reasoned that our market, Nigerian electricity consumers, are used to hearing megawatts, not gigawatts. If you put GW, nobody will understand what they're talking about. And I multiplied 10 gigawatts by 1,000 to get 10,000 megawatts. And I rephrased the press release that way. And it became a problem. We wrote it in gigawatts and GW and you're writing megawatts.
Exactly, yeah.
I had to start explaining. See, these guys who you want to reach don't think in GWs. They think in megawatts and you have to write it in full. And there's no harm done. The important thing is you are sending this message across. It took some explaining before they understood me and they went with it. And that is the way it is. You mentioned nuances. There are cultural contexts. There are environmental contexts. There are even the literary context, whereby what I am telling a technocrat will certainly be different from what I'm taking to the ordinary man.
Exactly.
So who do you need at each point in time? But our people think in terms of volume most of the time and not value. I have a so amount in terms of budget. I need to be in all the newspapers in this country. I need all the stations to be to carry it, blah, blah, blah. What are you saying? What is the message that you're sending across? Are you sure you sat with somebody or a group who will think for you in terms of how you're going to package that product? Are you speaking the Obahiagbonic English that nobody will connect with? Are you speaking below them? Are you speaking above them? Or are you talking to them? In fact, there's even another context. Are you talking with them? Talking to is a one-liner. Talking with creates the opportunity for a two-way flow. And the way you couch your language, the way you carry the people who are going to help you create these contexts and content before context will determine how successful your message is. Because you have thrown it out, it has gone out. What it generates is totally not determined by you. The world is sitting down talking about the Ocean Gate submersible that went under the sea. The scientists, the creators of these things, sat down to design a wonderful machine. To the point where, perhaps because they believe that those who are inside the thing might be scared of the depths, I will start tampering with it. And they locked it from outside. So that whatever you wanted, no matter how desperate you are, you can't break that machine and come outside. But then, nobody thought of the depths of the sea. Nobody thought of the fact that they could get missing and then there will be an implosion. That very unfortunate incident. But that's how communication is. You must work hard to create all the scenarios. What if this message goes out? how is it going to resonate with the audience?
Anyway.
How are they going to react?
Fantastic. I was going to ask you, when we come back, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're looking at the interaction of the communication as a profession in this information age, with all the ballooning of all sorts of information channels, social media, what have you. There's so many media, pay-per-view TV, streaming services, and what have you. But that'll be when we come back. We're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back very shortly. Welcome back to the Nationalist. We're still discussing communication strategies, public and private sector, and with us is Mr. Ikem Okuhu. So before we left, before we took that break, we were talking about the interaction in this information age, where people have so many options on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Flickr, TikTok, all sorts of things going on. How does the communicator, the professional communicator, how does he navigate all of this, and what are the impact of all this raft of options, especially in terms of mind share for the people? How do you get through that? For example, the average professional communicator is used to, sending out messages. Yes, of course, you use some social media channels, but mostly corporate communication, you want to deal with newspaper houses, traditional media. You want some sort of structure, However, when you begin to talk about these social media platforms, which are so many, and there are some that also have a lot of audience, but where a lot of people go there, but you probably would not want to go and do your advert, maybe for some sort of advert on TikTok. Or should we be thinking of sending government adverts on TikTok now or on Instagram?
Well, the point you missed is, when you said that the communication people have options. The communication people, for me, professionally speaking, don't have those options. They don't determine it. It is the audience that determines that. If I want to reach a segment of people,
yes,
initially, before the democratization of the media space by social media and the digital ecosystem, you could easily predict, I want to reach this demographic in terms of age group, in terms of occupation, in terms of geography, where are they? It's no longer as easy as that. These days, there are psychographic modeling, where your behavior on the internet determines how message can be customized to you. So it is not those of us who are in communication that determine that. It is the audience. Because you need, remember what I said, you need cultural context. So you need to leave yourself to meet those people where they are. Otherwise, you'll be speaking either above them or below them. You need to speak with them. Speaking with them means that you have to get to them in their comfort zones. If they are clustering on Facebook, if you profile that audience and they are on Facebook, even on Facebook, what kind of conversations do they hold? Are they discussing relationships? Are they discussing business? Are they discussing politics? Are they discussing... even when they are discussing, the time and season determines the conversations, which is why most brands look for trends. What is trending? What are the young people talking about? What are the old people talking about? Where are they gathered? And then you tailor your message to situate yourself in that place. We don't determine it. Those we are talking to are the determinants. Whether they're on TikTok, whether they're on LinkedIn, whether they're on Pinterest, whether they're on Twitter, whether they are on Instagram, they are the owner of the thing. And that is why they have that such power that you no longer believe that once you buy the newspaper, you have delivered your message to the audience. Once you place your advert in the business pages or in the politics pages, those who are reading politics, those days in one of the prime newspapers, I'm not sure I'm in a position to mention any name, but every Tuesday and Thursday, you know that if you're selling properties and you put your advert in that on that day, you are most likely to get attention. If you're sending a vacancy advert, you're recruiting, you know that if you place your vacancy advert, everybody who's looking for a job or a career movement will find it there. It is no longer that precise. Even the person looking for a job has where at every point, a time of his day, when he will be thinking of career. Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it in the night? Is it when he's discussing in a group? Where do they discuss careers? You need to listen, which is why these algorithms help us in doing this thing, to listen to them. So they are the owner of the messaging now, not you. And when you listen to them, you know what they are talking about. You know where they are talking about it. Where is not a physical location. Where is a virtual location where they are gathered. They cluster in communities. These tiny communities may become small, of a few hundred or a few hundred of thousands of people or a few tens of thousands of people holding that conversation. And when you situate yourself within that context, you are likely to arrest attention. And it's much more precise. It's cost effective because you are almost more measurably sure that once you drop a hit, you are likely to touch flesh. So it is, we don't determine it, and the audience determine where and how you are going to meet them.
So, so how much more difficult, sorry for butting in, but how much more difficult is your work now that everybody is a publisher? That's the thing. Everybody is a blogger, everybody is a publisher. Everybody wants to go on their media page and release the news first before...
The people who are worried are people who are not doing the right things. If you have something to hide, you're scared of the multiplicity of publishing platforms. But if you are engaging properly, I write.
Yeah.
Both for brands.
Very well too.
And even to excite myself. I've done articles on Facebook, and in hours, I see it in blogs.
Exactly.
I didn't pay them.
Okay. Good.
I've dropped articles on my personal...
Hope they acknowledge, because some people don't know, they
don't even acknowledge. Sometimes you just see it traveling in some other places, and you just say, this is my article. You may see your name, you may not see it.
They don't understand plagiarism.
No, that's something, that's a challenge anyway. Sometimes I'll publish something on my personal blog, and I didn't pitch it to anybody. And you see people who believed in the values you expressed in that content, and they took it forward. And it started reaching more and more people and more people. So the key thing is, if you don't have a lot of things to hide, that you don't have a lot of things to hide doesn't mean that every business, every person has some things you don't want to keep in public. But it has to be at a certain minimum. But once your content is of good quality, forget it. People will hear you. Because they say it's the age of content. Yes. The age of content doesn't mean that you just have to proliferate anything you like and throw it to the space. It has to be of a minimum quality. Even somebody who doesn't know how to write, once he sees it, wow, who put this thing together? My friend Tokbe, my friend Ali Mosho, my friend Akiola must see this thing. And before you know it, the funnel goes out. And that's those two icons on social media where you see share. It's a simple button. You click at this, and an article that originally reached 10 people is now being read by 10,000 people. Because 8 of the 10 people you initially shared it to believed in it, and they believe that some other person has to read this. Or that certain relevant authorities, we need to listen to this conversation. So it's a problem to the extent that we are no longer, it's no longer convenient for us to manage it. Those days when you can sit down and call newspapers and say, please, I have this article or I have this issue, kindly help me protect it. That era is gone.
It's gone.
Because I don't know how many online publishing platforms in this country.
Exactly.
But then I also don't know how many of them get across in terms of getting attention of the people. So, but you need to watch it. Yes, you need to keep close relationship with those who have invested in influence to the point where one material comes there can actually be taken because this person said so.
Exactly.
There are still influencers, both in terms of media authorities and in terms of even individuals who have built credibility around certain topics, around certain subject areas, to the extent that once they say something, people don't chew it twice before they swallow.
So for someone who has the flair, maybe young people watching us at home who want to become communication professionals, what do they have to do apart from finding the flair? And I don't know, maybe that flair is only inborn. You know, like they say, some leaders are born, some are made, some are, you know, dragged off the streets. So what does somebody do in order to be able to call themselves a professional communicator at your level?
I don't know about professional, but a professional communicator is not essentially a content creator. A professional communicator is somebody who sees, dimensions an issue, identifies the problems, works around what could be possible solutions, and then engages people who will create relevant content to solve that problem. The boys around the streets are not essentially, they can't be called professional communicators, but they get around because they invest in content. And in terms of what you said, you know, the way the media consumption has changed, there are communities who rarely read, who rarely invest in the kind of reading that those of us did during our own time. So if I have a project I'm supposed to reach certain people, I'd rather not write. I'd rather create a script, work around an idea, work around strategy, and call somebody, if it requires addressing a community using visuals. Visuals including videos, including simple memes. I'll get it done. Get a good creative person who will help give expression to what I have in my strategy document. And when you get it right, I will know. I may not be a graphic artist, I may not be a videographer, but I know when the right elements are in the right places because I know them. And when you get it done, I am the professional person in that space. The other person is like an engineer drawing the plan of a building, working at that, and getting an artisan to build the blocks, get the roof, do the plumbing works, and that is it. That's the same way it works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ikem. Well, this is as much as we can take today. Already 30 minutes is gone, you know, but I hope that at some other time we'll be able to bring you in.
All pleasure.
To explain the subject.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you very much, viewers, for staying tuned this far. I've been talking about communication strategies and other issues with Mr. Ikem Okuhu. See you next week.